Hello once again. This is the third and last of this series of records that I've picked up recently. And we'll start with Laura Nyro. Now, Laura Nyro, if you haven't heard Laura Nyro, you probably should. She's more famous or more well known as being a brilliant songwriter in the late 1960s, but she did release her own albums with her own unique versions of songs. And she wrote some hits recorded by the Fifth Dimension, like Wedding Bell Blues and Stone Soul Picnic. And she also wrote Eli's Coming, that was recorded, a big hit by Three Dog Night. Stony End, which Barbra Streisand kind of revived her career, having a hit with Stony End, was a Laura Nyro composition. And her own albums are very, very good. They aren't as commercial as the recorded hits by other artists, but they're very good albums. And this was the only Laura Nyro album that I didn't have. So I was happy to pick this up. Joe Perry of Aerosmith. I'd never heard his solo albums. I don't know how many solo albums he had, but I found this one. It's called Let the Music Do the Talking. I mean, I seem to remember that there might have been 2 or 3, but before he got back together with Steve Tyler and went back into Aerosmith. But Cliff Richard, Green Light. I think this is one of his better albums. Produced by Bruce Welch of The Shadows. Seals and Crofts, Get Closer. It's the last album of their early albums that I didn't have. I really like Seals and Croft. This one I bought almost primarily for the cover too. It's The Seekers, not the new Seekers, but the original Seekers with Judith Durham on vocals. And I love the cover on this. It's so psychedelic, and it's such a period piece for 1967 or 68. And it's called Seekers Seen in Green. Now, their albums are very folky, kind of Peter, Paul, and Mary type thing, but and this one has 59th Street Bridge Song, and that's what it's like before it's psychedelicized. The records are very good. But that was a nice stereo copy, clean. Nice cover. The next 2 albums are by The Shadows, the British instrumental group The Shadows, who were first there backing up Cliff Richard, and they are the dominant British instrumental group, guitar group, Hank Marvin, in Britain in the 1960s. And I guess from an American standpoint, or a North American standpoint, you'd say that they were kind of the British version of the Ventures. But these are Canadian pressings. This one's called Dance On with the Shadows. It's on the Canadian Capitol 6000 series. The group that rose to fame with Cliff Richard now stars in their own right, presented in an album showcasing their fabulous sound. And it was their first album released in Canada without Cliff. They even cover Rumble, which I assume is Link Wray's Rumble. And this is an album from 1967 called The Shadows 67, and it's more of an easy listening album. It's a stereo copy. I see they're playing Burns Bison kind of guitars here. And what's interesting, I haven't played this yet, but it has a cover of the Easy Beats Friday on my mind. You rarely find Soft Machine albums here, and I was lucky enough to pick up a copy of Soft Machine 4. The Canterbury. Jimmy Spheris. Jimmy Spheris recorded, I think, about 4 albums for Columbia Records in the 1970s, and none of them sold in any quantity. I don't know if they even charted. And I was at a friend's place a while ago, a couple of years ago, and he played me a Jimmy Spheris record, and I thought it was really good. So I was lucky enough to find a Jimmy Spheris album. It's called The Original Tap Dancing Kid. I haven't played it yet, but it makes for an interesting find. Produced by Felix Cavallari of the Young Rascals. This one I picked up because I just love this song. Nice cover too. This is from, I think, 1962 or 63, and it's an early Atco recording. Nino Tempo and April Stevens, who were really brothers and sisters. I think they were. I don't think they were. Yeah, I think they're brother and sister. And it's Deep Purple, and Deep Purple was a big hit here. Love the song, and it's a nice stereo copy. It was clean. Just a cool one to find. As was this, The Tourists. Most people have never heard of The Tourists. It's called Reality Effect, and I think they had 2 or 3 albums. I have 2 albums. I have a Greatest Hits album, but this one I didn't have, and it's maybe their best album. The Tourists were the Eurythmics, essentially, Dave Stewart and Annie Lennox, before they became the Eurythmics. Like there's Annie Lennox there, and I don't know if that's Dave. This one has their big hit, big UK hit, I think. I Only Want to Be With You, the cover of the Dusty Springfield hit from 1964. And It Doesn't Have to Be This Way, which I remember as being kind of a dominant song on this album. I really liked the group Triumvirate. Their album Illusion on a Double Dimple was a really good prog rock album, kind of Emerson, Lake and Palmer sounding, from the mid-1970s. And this was the follow-up album called Spartacus. I think they were German, if I remember rightly. Robin Trower. I have most of Robin Trower's albums, but I didn't have this one. It's called BLT. Jack Bruce, Bill Lorden, and Robin Trower. Bacon, lettuce, and tomato. Not the greatest cover, but the music is good. And speaking of John Wetton from an earlier video, this is UK's album called Night After Night, live, featuring, I think, is it Terry Bozzio on drums, John Wetton on bass, and was it Eddie Jobson, keyboards and maybe violin. And I think this is the only UK album that I didn't have. I'm a huge Todd Rundgren fan. Have most of his albums, but I didn't have these 2. And they're both promo copies, and I think this must be a radio station promo copy because it says Chum. Now Chum, back in the 70s and 80s, was Toronto's #1 or first FM rock station. And this is a promo copy, and it says Chum on it, although it's just written in pen. Swing to the Right. And this is another Utopia album, and it doesn't have Chum written on it, but it is a promo copy of Utopia. Is this just called Utopia? Yep, it's just called Utopia. Now, Gene Vincent. I picked up 2 Gene Vincent albums. This is the one that's the better one of the 2, I think. But Gene Vincent was just one of the dominant rockabilly artists of the 1950s, most famous for his big hit Bebop-A-Lula. And this release came from the 1970s, and it's like a greatest hits collection of Gene Vincent material. And at the time, it was the only Gene Vincent material you could buy on vinyl. His original recordings were just so collectible, especially in the 70s and 80s, that they were commanding big dollars for nice copies. They were, $50, $60, $70 probably at the time. And this has really good liner notes. There was another album kind of in this series that was a very similar album, a re-release of 50s material on Capitol, and it was Les Paul and Mary Ford, with a collection of songs that, and I don't think Capitol carried on with reissuing in that series, but the Gene Vincent one was good. And this is another Gene Vincent album that I picked up. It was inexpensive. It also has Bebop-A-Lula on it, but this is an import copy of Gene Sings Vincent 1956, his Blue Caps. And it's just a really nice collection of songs, and it was a good price, so I picked it up too. Thank you for watching.